Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rainmakers Roundup. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I've got with me today Rajiv Jadhav. Rajiv is the founder and CEO of RSQUARE Media. Rajiv, I am so glad we finally got you on this program. It feels like it's been forever.
I know, right?
It has.
Happy to be here.
How are you, my friend?
Doing well, doing well. I am blessed, and I hope you and the entire crew are blessed as well.
We've got a great crew here at RVN Television, Rajiv. Thank you. There's about 10 folks running around making sure everything is perfect, and it's just such a pleasure for me to have you on the program. I really want you to tell the audience a little bit about RSQUARE Media, what you do. You and I are on a number of wonderful networking groups, and to me, you're one of the consummate networkers, Rajiv. You're always out there trying to help others, and I applaud you for all those efforts. It's just, and you know what? What's amazing to me, my friend, is that it's always authentic. You're always doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So let's start off with that, but thank you for that.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark, for inviting me on this awesome platform and your show. So to answer your question as directly or succinctly as I can, RSQUARE Media is an award-winning online visibility and reputation management company based in New York City. What we do is we help clients be seen or not be seen online. Incidentally, that's our registered tagline as well. So the be seen part of it basically means we're helping clients achieve thought leadership status on relevant platforms online like LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, Medium, etc. And the thinking is that rather than people chase opportunity, chase customers, why not change that paradigm and have the opportunity chase you? And that's the thinking behind the thought leadership. Incidentally, the thought leadership service, we use a lot of catchy names, slightly explicit catchy names, but of course, when I tell the name, you'll realize why I said that. So our thought leadership service is called Halo, and the flip side of that is the not be seen side of it, which is we are deleting misinformation, bad press, bad reviews from Google and social. And that's the other side of what we do, which is essentially reputation repair. And within that, we have three services. The first is called Bazooka, which I'm sure, as you can tell by the name, it deletes. The other service is called Force Field, and Force Field basically prevents future bad press or future crisis on Google. And the last is relocation. Relocation basically is where we're moving the bad press or the offending link from Google page 1 to Google page 4 or 5, where virtually no one goes. So in a nutshell, those are the services that we offer. And the reason why we do what we do is because I'm a big proponent of leaving the world better than I found it. And one of the most numbing or paralyzing things that I have found in people is that if they've made a mistake in the past, even in the distant past, for whatever reason, that seems to haunt them and chase them through their entire lives, which prevents them from making better choices and being a more productive member of society. So why not correct that wrong and give them so that they can do better for their community, for their family, for their friends, for their employees, for their stakeholders. And that is my why, if you will. And that's the reason, that's what really drives our mission at RSQUARE Media.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful mission. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and I've always wanted to ask you, Rajiv, is how does this happen? How does someone end up with a really bad reputation that you either have to remove and then fix, and then either hide, as you said, you relocate them to Google 4th or 5th page that no one looks at? What ends up happening? What are the kinds of things that people can be aware of as they look at their reputation and maybe engage R-Square Media in some of the work that you do?
Okay, so I got to say, Mark, that is a fantastic question. So let me first start by sharing some very shocking data points. And this will help to, in a way, reframe the issue. So when it comes to reviews online, 50%, 50, 50,
Wow.
not 15, 50% of online reviews are posted incorrectly. What do I mean by that? I mean that the person posting the review is posting to the wrong company. It's a case of mistaken identity.
Wow.
So 50% of just out the board are false or incorrect
Wow.
or irrelevant. That's one side of it. The second side of it is 25% of bad reviews that you see online are posted by unscrupulous competitors. 25%.
Wow.
So that just leaves us, if we can do the math, with 25% of actual bad press. Because hey, it's not possible to make everyone happy at the end of the day. And sure, people might have a less than satisfactory experience with a service or a product, and those have a possibility of being accurate at least to the extent of that they are posting the review to the right company that they dealt with.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, and people think that, oh my God, this company is horrible because they have 25 or 50 one-star reviews, all scathing reviews. Oh my God, like I don't want to work with this company. This is probably a bad leadership, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So the data point just suggests that a lot of that could be completely false.
Wow.
Completely. And when you get into offsetting that, there are many strategies that you can use to offset that. The first being, yes, deleting all the bad,
Yep.
Especially if it's like completely irrelevant because that wasn't your customer to begin with.
Yeah.
So you can get rid of it, delete it from Google My Business or Yelp or Trustpilot or
Bing.
Clutch or whichever platform, Amazon, Facebook, etc.
Yep.
That's one side of it. The second side of it is to then solicit existing customers to post positive reviews.
Okay.
So that the world can find out the truth, if you will, about the business, what they do, your mission, etc. And then, of course, if the client or the brand wants to go further, they can then leverage us to create good content about them, accurate content that showcases them in the most best light as well as accurate light. That talks about it could be interviews, it could be write-ups, it could be press releases, and all these things are packaged and marked such that they are found prominently on Google and social, so that when customers are looking for them, when they're in that consideration journey where they're thinking about which brand to buy from or engage with, they then see this side of the story as well, and can then let their conscience guide them as to whether they want to work with them or not. But I think brands definitely need to keep in mind and be cognizant of the fact of how buyer psychology works, and the fact that they should present their version of the story, even if there isn't any bad press to offset. They should still do that, because it's not just customers that are dealing with. You're also dealing with stakeholders. You're dealing with potential partners like other brands like Disney, Netflix, Hulu, and Nike, etc., that might want to partner with you. And if there's something out there that either is disparaging, that's going to kill the deal. Also, if you're invisible online, that's also going to kill the deal, because these companies will do their due diligence, look you up online, and if they don't see you, they'll wonder as to why that's the case.
Exactly.
So I think those are like the two scenarios that's most commonly that we deal with at R-Square with clients of all sizes, whether they're politicians, celebrities, actors, as well as high-ranking CEOs and entrepreneurs.
You know, Rajiv, those numbers are staggering. It's amazing to me when you started to quote, 50% are the wrong company and 25% are from unscrupulous competitors out there. It stands to reason that people go back and they look at these reviews, whether it's on Yelp or Bing or Google or whatever it is, and R-Square Media is out there doing its best job to eliminate a lot of the bad press and help boost the goodness in these companies. Have you seen, as a result of the pandemic and the lack of service jobs out there, right? So a lot of times you go into a restaurant or you fly in an airplane, and the service just isn't what it was prior to the pandemic. Are you seeing an uptick, Rajiv, in these bad reviews and an uptick in the business for R-Square?
That's a very interesting question, Mark. In fact, my finding is actually something that you wouldn't expect. So when the pandemic happened, many businesses were just shut because that was the law in that county or state or whatever the case was, or region.
Yeah.
And that prevented customers from accessing services that they depended on. And desperately, these services were part of their daily life. I'll give you a very quick example that I'm hoping many can relate to. Something as simple as your morning cup of coffee, where you walk into your Dunkin' Donuts or 7-Eleven or Starbucks or whichever your favorite coffee brand chain is, and you rely on that cup of coffee to give you that little lift or delight or treat, if you call it. And then when the pandemic happened, all those shops were shut and you couldn't access them. And customers felt they felt like they were robbed of that choice, robbed of something that was so integral to their daily life.
Sure.
And then when those shops opened up again after the pandemic or the law was relaxed slightly, what I noticed is that many customers, and this is something that I observed in person, were so grateful. They were so grateful that this service was available to them now, that they were just so happy that this was available once more. So it didn't matter that the cashier had a bad attitude because he or she was overworked and was at the end of their 12-hour shift. That didn't matter. Just the fact that they were able to now walk into their favorite retail location and avail of this thing that they previously had, which they didn't have for 3 to 6 months, but now that they has become available again. So I've noticed this gratitude, empathy. People, for the most part, are becoming more empathetic and more grateful for the things that are available to them, especially working with healthcare professionals, because those people were on the front lines right through this entire thing, right when it started in March. And I think when people are working with nurses or healthcare professionals, they're a lot more grateful of them just as a broad category because of what they've done for their community as well as what they've done overall, even looking at it on a country basis. So that's what I found. Now, is that going to stay? I don't know. But I think as the pandemic relaxes and as we get back into a certain normalcy, which mirrors pre-pandemic times, it's possible that people might regress into their old ways and become stubborn and impatient, and of course that could lead to them having certain unreasonable expectations, and then of course that resulting in bad reviews or hateful comments, etc.
Right.
So I just hope that we stick to being generous and having gratitude and empathy.
Your lips to God's ears, my friend. I always love talking to you because there's such a genuineness to you, Rajiv, and I just love your excitement and enthusiasm, and that powerful message that people are grateful and there's a level of gratitude, because they're back in their routine, and it's so great. Listen, we're going to have to take a quick commercial break. I think we're going to go to one commercial. We'll be right back, folks, after this message from our sponsors with more from Rajiv.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind the scenes footage, previews, and more.
Welcome back to Rainmakers Roundup. I am your host, Mark Iorio. I've got Rajiv Jadhav from... Rajiv is actually the president and founder, CEO of RSQUARE Media up in New York. And we're having just a greatest conversation here about reputation management and how you're able to manage that, how you're able to manage the negativity and boost up the positivity. Rajiv, thanks so much for joining us on RVN. It's a great pleasure. I asked you during the break how you stay so up and so positive and so vibrant every day. Every time I talk to you, you always have some smile, a big smile on your face, and you're always very energetic, and I love that.
Thank you for noticing.
You're welcome. What would you, if you had this to do over again, right? What would you do? Would you do anything differently? Starting RSQUARE Media?
No, I wouldn't do anything differently. Perhaps I would have started maybe a year earlier. That's one thing I might have done differently. Another thing I might have done differently is we have a very successful ongoing global mentorship program at RSQUARE that attracts talent from the top schools in the US. You can think of it, we've had that candidates from that in our mentorship internship program. So if I could do it over, I would perhaps have started that a little earlier than we did, even though when we did start it, it was close to when the company started.
Yeah.
And also switching from in-person to remote. I mean, that's something that we did. I want to say, I think 2014, 2015 is when we went remote and virtual. And that actually expanded our reach as far as working with top talent from all over the country, because then those candidates didn't have to travel from California or Albany or Miami or, wherever they were located based on where their school was. And that's something that I think I definitely would have done differently. Another thing I would have done differently is maybe being a little bit more discerning when working with clients, especially when it came to payments, and insisting on payment terms that were such that you kind of pay up front and then the service is delivered, as opposed to then later on having to chase clients for money and then ultimately sue them.
Yeah.
So that's basically a few of the things that come to mind. But overall, I think we made several right choices and several good decisions. And our work culture is a zero stress work culture, and the way in which we're maintaining and sustaining that work culture is that everyone in our team decides when they want to work, the kind of work that they want to do. There's no micromanagement. They have full creative freedom. And of course, we're really big on feedback. So we're giving feedback as early as possible as they want to receive.
Yeah.
And this way, then they know very early on what the ask is, what the expectation is. And then they essentially don't spend a lot of time doing something that may ultimately turn out to be the wrong direction because of our feedback system. We meet every day, Monday to Friday, and give feedback. And it's a very nurturing, friendly kind of work environment. It's very chill, very laid back. So these are, some of the things that I think we've done well, and we continue to attract top talent from the top schools in the country, including the Ivy Leagues. And I think our reputation is certainly spreading to the extent of other students saying, "Hey, R-Square is an amazing place to work. You should totally check them out," and stuff. And of course, many of them have posted very positive recommendations on LinkedIn as well as Glassdoor.
They better.
So yeah, but thank you for that question.
Yeah,
Mark.
you're welcome. I wouldn't expect anything different from a leader like you to have an organization that is nurturing and flexible and chill. That's important. I'm sure you have literally dozens of stories to tell about proud moments or, sometimes you call them case studies, but really proud moments where R-Squared has really helped, R-Square has really helped someone in the reputation management side and really gotten them to the point where, they're able to carry on their lives in a more normal way now because you've cleared up some of the misconceptions out there on social media or some of these reviews. Perhaps you can share a story or two with the audience, Rajiv.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right, Mark. I don't know whether you're psychic or just really, really smart or very, very insightful. Yes, there are several stories that come to mind immediately. The first is we were part of a conglomerate that helped various presidential elections outside of the U.S. in Africa.
Wow.
So we were involved in the presidential elections in Ghana, Nigeria, Malawi, and South Africa.
Wow.
So all of those really helped to support the front runners, the candidates, because as you know, in politics, unfortunately, it can get to be a mudslinging kind of game,
Oh, yeah.
and people are just constantly either inventing things to say to bring you down or just exaggerating things to bring you down. So either way, there's a lot of firefighting that needs to happen, as well as putting out or resetting the message, so to speak, or the perspective. And that's something that we did a lot of outside of the US. As far as another story where we really rescued a client. So this is, they say truth is stranger than fiction, and I'm sure this is something that might fit that quite closely. So there was a client that was in the job market. She was a senior executive, and she finally, after 6 or 9 months, finally got an offer from her dream job in her dream role in the dream company. High 6-figure offer. And then she later found out when she was expecting that offer to come in that the company retracted it. And she asked the executive recruiter what happened. And the recruiter said, the company thinks you're a criminal. She was like, what? Criminal?
Wow.
Me? Like, what are you talking about? This is just so bizarre. And then she Googled herself and saw that in her Google search was someone that was right at the top of her Google search on page one, number one on page one, somebody that looked like her, had the same first name. They were both blonde, so they looked very similar.
Oh my God.
And that person appearing in the Google search has a criminal background.
Oh my
So
God.
even though this was a case of mistaken identity, the company got skittish and said, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. So let's just go in a different direction. So the executive recruiter then said, hey, why don't you contact R-Square? Maybe they can help you out because this is what they do.
Yeah.
So she contacted us. We researched it and said, yes, we can absolutely help you by deleting this from your Google search. We estimated our typical turnaround time is 90 to 120 days. But to our surprise, we were able to get it deleted in 2 weeks. And because we got it deleted so fast, the executive recruiter was then able to reverse the company's decision, and she got hired. So I think that's like one success story. And this was very recent. This happened a few months ago this year. So and then the thing is, it's not that there was a story by the Washington Post or Wall Street Journal alleging that she defrauded somebody out of $5 million or $10 million. It
Right.
wasn't that at all. It was just, it was a link on one of those sites like People Finder, Truth Finder, Redaris, etc.
Right.
that publish a lot of private demographic information about people, their name, their age, how many times they've been married, where they live, etc. And unfortunately, that link came up for whatever reason in her Google search, seemingly benign, but turned out to be malignant, and it had to be excised. So I think that's like a pretty interesting example of how online can have some very real, tangible impact, whether that's good impact or damage.
To me, that's an amazing story, and it just speaks to what you said earlier about the passion for doing what you do, Rajiv. You're day by day making the world a better place, and that person, that executive, has got to be so grateful for the work that you and RSQUARE Media did, because, I mean, that's a big job. And frankly, even though it's a big job, it's her reputation that you helped repair. So there's nothing more wonderful than that. And I would imagine that's what drives you day by day.
Exactly. That's exactly what drives us. I think when we champion the rights of good people, that allows them to do more good in the world.
Yeah.
And it's about creating that ripple effect and to level up people, to give them that opportunity to continue to do good in the world.
Yeah.
And I think, if the world focused more on leveling people up as opposed to tearing them down, I think we would be in a slightly different, more happier, more connected world. But I do what I can.
Well, you're doing quite a heck of a job with this. As I said, every encounter that you and I have had, whether it's on a networking group or your podcast, talking with you and Lynn Donaldson, it's just every encounter, Rajiv, has been a positive one, and your enthusiasm emanates that positivity, and that's one of the things I really love about you. Where do you inspire others, Rajiv? You do, day by day. Where do you find inspiration?
Inspiration comes in a variety of forms. Looking back at my time in the corporate world, I saw many examples of very, very young people with almost no experience, just diving in and then creating an agency and then being incredibly successful. Mm-hmm. And that was perhaps one of my earliest inspirations to even begin thinking about starting RSQUARE. Prior to that, maybe even 10 years prior to that, my earliest mentor, who was a creative director with a leading advertising agency, I think now that agency is called TBWA Shai Day.
Oh, yeah.
And he, even though he was a creative director, he had a passion for creating T-shirts, and he was an illustrator. And then he created a very, very successful T-shirt brand with almost no advertising. Ironic, I know. And then he was constantly telling me, at that point, I was a trainee copywriter, and he was saying, Rajiv, you should start your own thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like my first month in the workforce, and you're telling me about starting my own thing. What are you talking about? But I think he was sowing the seeds very early on, or at least he saw something in me that I guess motivated him to say those words. And of course, fast forward many years later, it resulted in RSQUARE Media being co-founded with me and my business partner, and then we really haven't looked back. That's as far as I guess the history, the history, or as I like to call it, the secret superhero origin story. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, as far as on an ongoing daily basis, I think inspiration comes from fun conversations, fun interactions. Meeting quality people, understanding their passion. And of course, as you know, passion is infectious, just like you said many times previously in this conversation. So between the past and the present, that's kind of how I'm inspired to continue to do what I do, and also to continue to innovate new solutions for a fluid and dynamic world.
Got it. Rajiv, I loved having you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us on RVN Television and the Rainmakers Roundup show. Tell everyone how to get in touch with you and RSQUARE Media, please.
Yeah, there are several ways to reach me and reach RSQUARE Media. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's one way to look me up. Another way is on Instagram. My handle is Rajiv Nis. my name followed by NESS, kind of like happiness. And then R Square Media is on LinkedIn as well as Instagram, Facebook as well. The handle is on Instagram is R Square Media NY. And we have a YouTube channel. Our email is team@rsquaremedia.com. Our website is rsquaremedia.com. And feel free to reach out, even if you want, even if you're curious, if you want to have a conversation, we're always open to have a conversation. We're all about understanding the need before scoping it out and making a proposal. So it's all about, assessing the goodness of fit, and that's only possible if we're able to have a conversation with you. And we're very easy to work with, very relaxed. So I think when you reach out to us, you will find that out about us quite early on.
Great.
Which will hopefully put your mind at ease, even if it's just a very exploratory kind of discussion.
Great.
So I welcome that, and I guess I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Rajiv, thanks so much. Folks, that's a wrap for Rainmakers Roundup. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful and safe week. Thank you.